Welcome viewers, welcome to the Manifest Enlightenment and Soar show with Kipling Sanders. Welcome viewers, welcome to the Manifest Enlightenment and Soar show with Kipling Sanders. My special guest today is Andrew Santry, who's a yoga trauma teacher. And he's been doing this for how long now?
I first became associated with trauma-informed yoga classes and trainings in 2016.
2016.
Yeah.
I think that's really important about helping people with trauma-related issues because there's healing that can be had. You just have to reach out and seek it. So Andrew, what inspired you to become a yoga instructor?
Boy, I think that's kind of like the best question, right? Like,
Yeah.
What's the foundation? What's the where's the genesis of all that?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I had experienced just life, and what happened was during my life I had a lot of burdens happen, and some of them I entered into some fellowships that really work on kind of resolving some of the self-perpetuating dramas and burdens that we create for ourselves. And through that, I entered into a trauma-informed yoga class, one specific to individuals experiencing what I was experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And what had happened was my idea of yoga, in which I had just seen stuff in movies or in magazines or just through my own imagination of what it was. What I found was yoga is not anything like that. It can be if you want it to be. I saw it as a physical exercise, something that people did for some fitness. But what I found is yoga, although fitness can be a very large part of it, yoga in itself, and this is stated in the second Yoga Sutra, where it states restraint to the modifications of the mind is yoga. From that foundation, I found wow, so all the things, my social anxieties, my obsessive mindsets, my compulsive behavior based upon those obsessions, I found that yoga can help restrain them so they became less of a burden.
Okay.
And that's how I found it, and I very quickly changed careers and became certified in multiple modalities of trauma-informed training. The umbrella of trauma-informed involved prisons, involved traumatic brain injury, involved addictions. I worked for at-risk youth, juvenile detention centers, and that involves into in our everyday life, we all have experiences that we may feel overwhelmed or anxious, and these can become pervasive in our days, and that too would fall under. So a lot of what I do is about down-regulating our stress centers and then taking that out into the real world.
I love that. I love down-regulating our stress centers. That is very...
Yeah, so as you can see, yoga very much was not what I thought it was. Just some fitness that some people that I didn't really know did.
Yeah.
So,
all right, wonderful. Thank you. I know a lot of yoga instructors, in fact, just a lot of friends of mine, most of them are female. You're a male yoga instructor, and I think people flock to you with your work, with your ethic. What is it about you? I can have my outlook or opinion, but this guy, he's very, very holy. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but just very spiritual, very spiritually gifted. And he's a wonderful teacher and instructor and very poetry in motion, almost.
Thank you. That's very kind to say. I think one of the things that I found, and we can start by understanding the word help. For me, when I started to change careers, I very quickly realized that when I was trying to help people, something didn't sit right with me internally. And what I did is I discovered that what I was trying to do is actually serve people. And through my trainings, we talked about how a surgeon doesn't heal the person. A surgeon puts everything in place for a human to heal themselves.
Right.
So instead of really helping people, what I found is I want to serve people to help themselves, to really create their own. And that in turn, I think, is a distinction because of the trauma-informed trainings that I did. That it evolved that maybe not a lot of other yoga instructors receive. And so I'm right now like immersing myself in more traditional lineages of trainings, and it's very new to me. It's very exciting and very challenging, but finding what a lot of people, how they find yoga through whether any of the modalities, whether it's hot yoga, Bikram, Ashtanga, or yin yogas, or any of these other disciplines, where I found it as a healing modality. And I think that communicates a lot of what you're saying, and maybe that's where it feels like there's a little freshness. But other than that, I really do think that everyone is practicing, teaching that. They just haven't had the specific trainings to change that language that maybe for you just felt more receptive to.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Andrew, was there any occurrence, an epiphany or an awakening or a eureka moment that began your quest into your practice?
Absolutely, absolutely. So a lot of it was me getting out of my own way. I found this trauma-informed yoga class specific to what I was experiencing in my life. And I went in there, and at the same time, I was trying to learn how to receive things. Oftentimes, growing up as a man, a lot of times I didn't feel safe to really express my emotions a lot. I felt like I had to have this certain persona about. And one of those things was I didn't really ask for help very much. I just tried to find a way to handle everything myself. I thought that was the manly way to do.
Right.
So in my path of trying to have more peace in my life, I was at this point where I needed to be more receptive. I had to be able to allow people to offer me any assistance or compliments or gifts.
Sure.
And I was trying to learn how to do that. And I went into this yoga class, and this woman said that she was leaving and she needed someone to take over. And if they took care of everything, would I mind being trained? And that was kind of this moment that maybe there's something more in this world than just what I'm thinking. And it was a huge shift in my life because internally I was like ruminating, like I need to learn how to accept gifts and guidance, and how do I do that? And I go to this yoga class because it's just part of my routine, and a woman says, I'm going to gift you a massive amount. Are you willing to take it? And I'm like, my first stance is, no, you got the wrong guy. But I remember what I was working on, and I was like, okay. And somehow this money flooded in, this time flooded in, all these opportunities worked together. I ended up reconnecting with my stepsister I hadn't seen in 17 years, ended up staying with her in Boston as I got this certification.
Nice, congratulations.
So it was not only a thought or like an epiphany, a mental like, here's that aha moment, but it was like the whole world just opened up.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get out of the way, and that's where, at that point, I decided that I was going to change my life from having studied landscape architecture, not graduating that, but having worked in the field, running design build companies. I knew that I needed to change my career, my focus, and my purpose in life.
Wow. That's a wonderful practice and a wonderful mission.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work and keep up the inspiration for others.
Thank you.
Andrew Santry, what's your favorite thing about yoga?
Wow, so this is a loaded question for a yoga sutra. Right, so again, falling back, the Yoga Sutras talk a little bit about attachment, which is desire, right? It's formulated on desire. So when I have something which is a favorite, and I was like, oh, I always want to move towards that, then I'm actually practicing attachment, which is something that yoga is trying to have me release.
What do you mean by attachment?
So attachment is seen as, so one of the examples I remember receiving is like just having this desire. If I step into a house and I smell apple pie, I suddenly have a desire for apple pie. So it's okay to feel like, apple pie is nice. I like apple pie.
Yes.
You know, but then the next thing, the next thing, when I start holding on to that and that want, that desire, and
the obsession,
now I'm going to, so now I'm going to start changing my things, and I'm going to leave that house, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy an apple pie, I'm going to eat the whole thing. Like that sense of attachment. In modern days, we look at attachment in a lot of ways. We might have a desire towards,
that's a good point.
Not only these classic examples of what I see or hear, but also like a specific income or looking a certain way. Some sort of attachment of body image or mental capacity or anything that removes me from acceptance of the natural flow of life.
Sure, because that has to do a little bit, I think, with self-esteem and or desire and being willing to have restraint in a situation. I think life in a lot of ways, ladies and gentlemen, is about developing and maturing in time. You have to be willing to mature. I had a desperate situation where I was really ready to quit drinking, and I reached my bottom, and I was willing to do all this spiritual work, and the spiritual work and solutions are beneficial to me and others. But the point of being able, what Andrew is mentioning here that's so keyly important, is that people they don't see themselves, attached or addicted or obsessing on this apple pie, per se.
Sure.
And then it's a week later or a month later and they're still thinking about apple pie.
Sure.
Right? As opposed to compartmentalizing in different compartments of your life. And I think it's healthy to do things in gradual doses, or do this for 20 minutes, do that for 20 minutes, do that for an hour, do that for an hour. Have hobbies, have healthy, happy hobbies, but at the same time, beware of that attachment, for sure, definitely. And I think the self-esteem lowers as we get more obsessed to it, because we're tunnel visioning to it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we live our life based upon chasing our likes, right?
That's not the way to live anymore.
Or running away from the things we dislike.
Right. That was the 80s, now this is the 2020s.
Yeah, I mean, so that does happen. We end up finding ourselves in a miserable state, even if it's a low grade and tolerable. But maybe we're short with people we love, or maybe we feel that we just unmotivated, and it's all tolerable and we accept it like that's how life is, but it doesn't have to be. Right. And that's one of the things that I appreciate the most about yoga, we'll say. Instead of desire or maybe appreciate the most, is that it's taught me to have some freedom. To recognize I love apple pie, but also to allow that that memory, that flood of how much I enjoy that to pass away. Like I don't have to get stuck on it.
Right.
And like I do that with the physical yoga practice. Whenever I am practicing a pose and I become more refined, it becomes more graceful, more fluid. At some point where we might say, I've mastered the pose, it simply becomes a starting point for the next.
Right.
So
I love that.
I can't really get attached to a favorite pose either, because everything is just the foundation for where I'm going next. And that's where yoga, to me, thank you, is more of a destination than really, or rather not the destination, but rather it's more the process, and that the destination is just something that's always there. It's the goal, it's the direction, that's all. It's not exactly something I am locked into, attached to attaining. There's several poses that my body will never have what people say a competent shape. And I can just go towards them, experience what I'm feeling, be happy with that, and move on.
Right.
So
Accept it and move on.
accept and move on.
Live in the light.
Yeah.
When you're teaching yoga to people, does it do something to you when you see people grow or reach their pinnacle or summit in their yoga pose, or just internally or spiritually even, for the realization that yoga helps and heals many people? Physically, spiritually, it improves overall mental well-being, in my opinion. The few times that I've taken yoga, it's fixed my back like that.
I love this question.
Good.
This is actually something that I can feel myself
Virtuous.
struggle with sometimes, and then be in acceptance. Everything you stated really becomes part of my purpose. This is why I took these trainings. This is why I wanted to reach marginalized communities, because I felt a pull, a purpose towards serving individuals that maybe didn't have an opportunity to experience a way of self-regulating or self-growth. So when somebody comes and they say how I've affected them, or something happened within and the class and the teachings, I do feel my ego sometimes swell. And I'm like, I'm important, right? And I'm doing good work. And I've been doing it long enough now that I start to recognize that that's a dangerous place for me, because it removes me away from doing that work, and now I'm doing it only for the accolades.
Right.
It's like, where's my next compliment? And so it's a wonderful experience to see myself always kind of drifting away from just pursuing my purpose and being invigorated by someone experiencing yoga as I did, where it had an internal shift that they found greater peace or acceptance. And just today somebody had said that, and this woman's 85 years old, and she walked up to me and she said, "Thank you." She's like, "I've taken everything we do in our class and I take it home, I practice daily." And she says, "If I don't, I'm not the same." And today was a good day because I was able to just really appreciate that this person was feeling some relief and stress. And I didn't all of a sudden make it all about me.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good, that's good. No, that's prototypical. I think the message here is it's selfless, to be selfless, to be out of myself, to be out of Andrew's self, for example, even when credit is given, to be humble people and just not let it get to the ego, not let it get to the head. Oh, I'm better than this person. Oh, I'm so great. Ladies and gentlemen, my message to you is to help people. Now is the time to help and reach out. So something that is important is that an avenue has been awareness has been open to the pathway of peace. And whether it's through yoga practice, whether it's through running or jogging or cycling or getting exercise at the gym or through prayer or through meditation, however you attain your peace, there are many ways. And I'm just really elated to have my guest on today, because I think he's a good walker of our planet and a good example for other people. To not be of ego, not to be of pride, and just to be a humble citizen and a humble, happy helper. Thank you for what you do again, Andrew. What is peace to you?
Right? So this is like, who doesn't want peace? So peace to me has to do more with understanding. Understanding what it means to have acceptance. Most of my life, I thought tolerance and acceptance were the same thing. That if I was tolerating the world as it was occurring, not opening my mouth, not making it worse, but internally I was contracted, I was frustrated. I thought that I was in a state of acceptance. Over the past several years, with some inward looking that I've done, and also reading about what these aspects of peace would be, like researching what is it to be accepting, what is it to be open-minded, what does compassion truly mean, right? Like these
Wonderful
words that we
questions.
apply.
Wonderful things to look into.
Right? And so people write a lot about this stuff. There's a lot of literature out there. So like specific back to acceptance, acceptance was to be unchanged internally for me during these times, during these struggles, right? So peace to me is really trying to look at what do I need to do for me to get a little closer to that sense of being unchanged during life's calamities.
What a beautiful and powerful answer.
It doesn't mean that I don't feel sadness or I don't feel frustration. But just like I don't attach to my likes or desires, those things also pass. Right? I can feel my human emotions, yet I remain my intrinsic true self through these environments. And having said that, my father had passed away about a year and a half ago. It was unexpected. And I remember getting the call that, hey, your father's in hospice. I had COVID at the time, so I couldn't fly. And he didn't think he'd last another day or two. So I bought a ticket for like the first day I could, after my quarantine. And but during that phone call, I remember just collapsing into my driveway. I was outside on the phone, and I just cried. I just felt the entirety of that sadness, of that loss. And then kind of when that exhausted itself, I went on. And then for the next 6 months, I noticed that I felt a little differently in my living experience. Again, that passed as well. And then I became back to that self. And that's what it looked like to appropriately process that loss. So that's how I discovered peace in that particular setting.
That is really
I felt everything, but came back to me. I didn't allow it to change me. I didn't become bitter. I didn't blame anything. I didn't fault the airline industries. I didn't do anything. I just did my best I could, remaining who I am, maintaining my values, maintaining my principles.
Good for you.
And then in time, finally, the sadness had passed.
And that's a point I want to stress. Feelings. Feelings is something where I've learned in my path is sometimes you're going to feel them. And technically, I've stopped drinking, but you're going to feel the feelings. That's actually a good thing, believe it or not. But the thing is, the point here is that feelings pass through you, as Andrew said. So when you try and prevent the feeling from happening, when you're trying to hold on to it and just manifest or obsess on that thought, or, most people go to negative thinking, like 80 to 90% of the time, they think the worst. So we have to correct this. And the thinking is basically where there's a negative situation and you turn it into a positive thought. So the processing feelings, if you actually allow the allowance of the feeling to go through you, it will pass through your body physically faster. So instead of holding on to it for a month, a year, your whole life, or even just 5, 10, 20 minutes or half an hour, you can let go of it. Let the feeling pass through. It won't have that friction, and it'll go through quicker. And don't be scared of feeling feelings. It's okay. The answer is, what do we do when we do that? And it's about finding a comfort, a peace, a rest in what is, And another point I want to stress is acceptance. Acceptance too. Acceptance, the first step is awareness and clarity, hence enlightenment. And then the second step is just accepting the situation. It doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It doesn't mean you have to like it. But if you accept it, you can have freedom in your own heart, body, mind, spirit, and soul. So these are some tricks of the trade, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew, do you think there could be peace on our planet?
So I'm going to say an emphatic yes. Absolutely no. Right? So
the dance of polarity is ultimate.
It is actually through these dualities in which we have this lack of peace that we have the avenue to find that personal peace.
The opportunity to find the peace.
If we didn't have the hardships of living, if we didn't have realities of the living experience, like neurodivergency, like addictions, like sadness, like difficulty processing and traumas throughout our lives, then we wouldn't have the tools to be able to focus on principles like acceptance or being open-minded. We may not find a purpose of our own life vocation, our own life purpose that we can devote ourselves to.
Right.
We might never really strive and feel those drives to create a safe place for self. And through all these actions, we can create this internal peace. Yeah. And so when I am at peace, and I don't live there, but every once in a while I can feel at peace, then the world is at peace. Even if the world's feeling chaotic, I feel at peace in the world.
Yes.
And pretty much what I'm experiencing is my world. Now, having said that, there's always going to be the next struggle around the corner.
Sure.
So even though I can strive for peace, I'm aware that the world, there will always be trials and tribulations. And some of them are just unimaginable. And I don't know how people endure. And at the same time, that still offers the opportunity for us to practice compassion, love, generosity, all the principles and all the guidance that philosophies and religions guide us towards.
Yes, well said, and thank you for that response.
Thank you.
Love, light, clarity, comfort, rest, and kindness, and peace is all within you. It's within yourself. And a lot of people, as I mentioned on my last show, they seek for the material thing like a car or a certain girlfriend, for a relationship security. Having the ability to realize and awaken. I want the world to awaken and realize that peace is within your own heart. It's within your own heart. It's within your own heart. That's where peace lies. And then at that point, then you can share it or internalize it, experience it. And it's not going to be 100% of the time, all the time. But there's a balance and this duality of these modals of challenges we face in the world. And so I believe in you and just overcoming obstacles, just like Lemur Blue did in my children's book, The Wonderful Adventures of Lemur Blue, Life Lessons. And so thank you for your time. Thank you for sitting down with me on my show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been a real honor. Where can people find your work?
The easiest way to reach out is through social media.
Okay.
Andrew Santry Yoga at either Instagram or Facebook.
Okay, wonderful.
Other than that, most things are rather private or within the confines of somebody else's domains.
Of course, okay. Wonderful. You can find my work at Kipling Sanders, author, speaker, on YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hopefully getting a television station soon. And also 16 podcast outlets in the near future. Working on it, guys. But hope you enjoyed our show. Share the message of light and love and spread it outwards. Thank you. And namaste.
Thank you. Namaste.
And peace be with you.
Peace be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.